The Seat of George Rochfort-esque by Jonathan Swift. Dramatis Personae. The Baron Lord Chief, Baron Rochfort George his eldest son, Nym his second son John, so called from his love of hunting, Dan Mr. Jackson a parson. Galstown the Baron's seat Sheridan a pedant and pedagogue Delaney chaplain, to Sir Constantine Phipps, when Lord Chancellor of Ireland. Dragon the name of the boat on the canal. Dean Percival and his wife friends of the Baron and his lady. Thalia tell in sober lays how George Nym Dan Dean one pass their days, and should our Galstown's wit grow fallow, yet negat quis carmina gallo, here by the way by Gallus mean, I not Sheridan but friend Delaney. Begin my muse first from our bowers, we sally forth at different hours, at 7 the Dean in nightgown dressed, goes round the house to wake the rest, at 9 grave Nym, and George facetious, go to the Dean, to read Lucretius 2 at 10, my lady comes and hectors, and kisses George and ends our lectures, and when she has him by the neck fast, hauls him and scolds us down to breakfast. We squander there an hour or more, and then all hands boys to the oar all heteroclite Dan, except who never time nor order kept, but by peculiar whimsies drawn peeps in the ponds, to look for spawn oversees the work, or dragon rose or Mars a text, or mends his hose or but proceed, we in our journal at 2, or after we return all from the 4 elements assembling, warned by the bell, all folks come trembling from airy garrets, some descend some from the lake's remotest end, my lord, and Dean the fire forsake, Dan leaves the earthy spade, and rake the loiterers quake, no corner hides them, and Lady Betty soundly chides them. Now water brought and dinner done with church, and king the ladies gone. Not reckoning half an hour, we pass in talking o'er a moderate glass. Dan growing drowsy like a thief steals off to doze away his beef, and this must pass for reading Hammond, while George and Dean go to backgammon. George Nym and Dean set out at 4, and then again boys to the oar. But when the sun goes to the deep not to disturb him in his sleep, or make a rumbling o'er his head his candle out, and he abed we watch his motions to a minute, and leave the flood when he goes in it. Now stinted in the shortening day, we go to prayers, and then to play till supper comes, and after that, we sit an hour to drink and chat. Tease laddeth old and younger pairs by Adam 3, lighted walk upstairs. The weary Dean goes to his chamber, and Nym and Dan to garret clamber, so when the circle we have run the curtain falls and all is done. I might have mentioned several facts like episodes between the acts, and tell who loses, and who wins, who gets a cold, who breaks his shins, how Dan caught nothing in his net, and how the boat was overset. For brevity I have retrenched how in the lake the Dean was drenched. It would be an exploit to brag on how valiant George rode o'er the dragon, how steady in the storm he sat, and saved his oar, but lost his hat, how Nym, no hunter ear could match him, still brings us hares when he can catch 'em, how skillfully Dan mends his nets, how fortune fails him when he sets, or how the Dean delights to vex the ladies, and lampoon their sex. I might have told how oft Dean Percival displays his pedantry unmerciful, how haughtily he cocks his nose to tell what every schoolboy knows, and with his finger and his thumb explaining strikes opposers dumb. But now there needs no more be said on't, nor how his wife, that female pedant, shows all her secrets of housekeeping, for candles, how she trucks her dripping, was forced to send 3 miles for yeast to brew her ale, and raise her paste, tells everything that you can think of, how she cured Charlie of the chink-off, what gave her brats and pigs the measles, and how her doves were killed by weasels, how Jowler howled, and what a fright she had with dreams the other night. But now since I have gone so far on a word or two of Lord Chief Baron, and tell how little weight he sets on all Whig papers and gazettes, but for the politics of Pew 4 thinks every syllable is true, and since he owns the King of Sweden 5 is dead at last, without evading now all his hopes are in the Tsar, why Muscovy is not so far down the Black Sea, and up the Straits, and in a month he's at your gates, perhaps from what the packet brings by Christmas, we shall see strange things. Why should I tell of ponds and drains, what carps we met with for our pains, of sparrows tamed, and nuts innumerable to choke the girls, and to consume a rabble? But you who are a scholar know how transient all things are below, how prone to change is human life. Last night arrived Clem and his wife. This grand event has broke our measures. Their reign began with cruel seizures. The Dean must with his quilt supply the bed, in which those tyrants lie. Nym lost his wig-block Dan, his Jordan my lady says, she can't afford one. George is half scared out of his wits, for Clem gets all the dainty bits. Henceforth expect a different survey, this house will soon turn topsy-turvy, they talk of farther alterations, which causes many speculations. Footnote 1 Dr. Swift F. Footnote 2 for his philosophy and his exquisite verse, rather than for his irreligion, which never seems to have affected Swift W.E.B. Footnote 3 the butler F. Footnote 4 a Tory newswriter C. Prose works Roman 7p. W.E.B. Footnote 5 Charles Roman 12 killed by a musket ball when besieging a petty fortress in Norway in the winter of 1718 W.E.B. Footnote 6 Mr. Clement Barry, called in the notes appended to Gulliveriana P12, chief favorite and governor of Galstown W.E.B.